$104. You look at the number on your phone screen. It's small. Honestly, it's kind of embarrassing. You made more than that in a single afternoon at your first job when you were 16 years old. But here's what's different this time. You were asleep when it came in. You didn't drive anywhere. You didn't clock in. You didn't smile at anyone. You didn't trade a single hour of your life for it. It just arrived. And even though $104 can't change your life, not yet, something about it changes you. This is where it starts. Not with $1 million, not with a lucky break, not with some secret formula whispered by a guy in a rented Lamborghini. It starts with $104. And a question you can't stop thinking about. What if that number got bigger? Level 1. $104 per month. Let's go back to the beginning. You have a regular job. Maybe you're earning $2,800 a month after taxes, maybe $3,500. It doesn't matter exactly. What matters is that every single dollar in your bank account came from one place. Your time. You work, you get paid, you stop working, the money stops. That's the deal, that's always been the deal. And then one day something changes. Maybe you wrote a simple PDF guide and put it up for sale online. Maybe you bought 5 shares of a dividend-paying stock. Maybe you uploaded a tutorial video that quietly kept getting views while you slept. Maybe you rented out a parking space near your apartment. Something small, something almost embarrassing to tell people about. And then one Tuesday morning, you wake up and check your phone. $104. It's not life-changing money. You know that. Your rent is $900. Your groceries are $200 a month. That $104 covers maybe 3 tanks of petrol, maybe a few dinners out. But that's not the point. The point is, where did it come from? You think about that a lot over the next few weeks, because what you just experienced is something most people never experience. Not because they can't, but because they never start. You made money without exchanging time for it. And your brain, your quiet, logical, practical brain, starts to ask a very dangerous question. Can I do that again? So you do it again. You reinvest. You improve that PDF. You buy 10 more shares. You post another video. You add another small thing. You're not quitting your job. You're not telling anyone. You're just building. Quietly. Some months it's $73. Some months it's $141. It goes up and down. But the direction? The direction is always forward. And here's the psychological shift that happens at this stage. And it's more important than the money itself. You stop seeing income as something that only comes from a boss. That idea sounds simple, but it rewires everything. Level 2. $520 per month? 6 months pass, maybe 8. You've been reinvesting. You've been consistent. You haven't talked about it much because it still feels small, and you don't want to jinx it, and honestly, you're still not sure if it's real, but then your passive income hits $520 a month. And something subtle happens. Your internet bill is $45. Your phone bill is $60. Your gym membership is $30. Your streaming subscriptions add up to $35. That's about $170 a month in recurring costs. Just the small stuff, the background noise of modern life. Your passive income now covers all of it, with $350 left over. This doesn't sound like a big deal, but psychologically, it is enormous, because those bills used to feel like tiny weights on your shoulders, small, annoying, persistent. Every month before you even bought groceries, money was already leaving. Now it's not leaving from you, it's leaving from the system you built. You still have your job, you still work your hours, but for the first time, your full paycheck, every single dollar, feels like yours, because the small stuff is handled. You notice something else too. You're less irritated at work. Not because your job got better, it didn't. It's the same meetings, the same deadlines, the same boss who sends emails at 9 p.m., but you're slightly less desperate. And desperation, it turns out, is what makes bad situations feel unbearable. When you have a little cushion, even a small one, you start making better decisions. You don't say yes to every extra shift because you need the money. You don't buy things impulsively just to feel okay. You start thinking, just a little bit, about next month instead of just surviving this one. $520 a month doesn't buy you freedom, but it buys you something almost as valuable, a little bit of calm. And from calm, you think clearer. You reinvest smarter. You start building something that can actually grow. Level 3, $1,150 per month. Another year goes by. You've been disciplined. You've been patient. You've reinvested almost everything. You've resisted the urge to celebrate too early, to upgrade your lifestyle, to tell everyone what you're doing. And now your passive income is $1,150 a month. Think about what that means. In some cities, that's rent. In other places, it's rent plus groceries. It's a number that, if you had to, you could actually live on. Uncomfortable, maybe, but possible. You start doing the math differently now. Before, you thought about passive income as a bonus, a nice little extra. Now you think about it as a foundation. What would your life look like if this covered the basics and your job covered everything else? You start taking it seriously in a new way. You open a spreadsheet, an actual spreadsheet, and you map out your income streams. Where is the $1,150 coming from? Is it mostly from one thing or a few things? Which one is growing the fastest? Which one needs more attention? You're not playing around anymore. You also start making a decision that changes your trajectory. You stop spending the passive income. All of it goes back in. Every dollar. Because you've done the math and you've seen how compounding works. Not in theory, but in your own life, in your own numbers. And you understand something now that most people never do. The fastest way to grow money is to not touch it. Not forever, but for now. You still have your job income. You live on that. The passive income, that's a machine you're feeding. Every month you feed it, and every month it grows a little more. $1,150 a month is $13,800 a year. That's not nothing. That's a used car. That's a down payment saved in under 3 years. That's a month of travel. That's the number that makes your family members tilt their head and say, "Wait, how?" But you're not stopping here. You're just getting started. Level 4, $3,230 per month. This level is where things get quiet. Not exciting quiet. Not celebration quiet. Just steady. Your passive income is $3,230 a month. After almost 2 years of building, reinvesting, adjusting, failing at some things, doubling down on others, this is where you are. And here's what $3,230 a month actually feels like. Your rent or mortgage is covered, your food is covered, your utilities, your transport, your basic subscriptions, covered. If you're a mid-sized city anywhere in the world, you could technically stop working your job today and survive. Not comfortably, but survive. You don't quit. Not yet. But something in your head shifts. The job, the thing you used to need, starts to feel different. Not bad necessarily, but optional in a way it never did before. When your boss asks you to work late for the 3rd Friday in a row, you feel something you haven't felt before. Choice. You can say yes because you want to, or no because you don't. Not because you have to perform to keep your safety net intact. This is a subtle thing, but it changes how you carry yourself. People around you notice, even if they don't know why. You're calmer in meetings. You don't panic when things go wrong. You negotiate with more confidence because you know quietly that you could walk away. That changes everything about how you show up. At this level, you also start thinking about your income streams more strategically. Maybe you have a digital product that brings in $800 a month, dividend stocks that pay $430 a month, a small blog or YouTube channel with ad revenue of $620 a month. Maybe you're renting out a room or property that brings in $1,380 a month. You look at those numbers and you ask, which of these can I multiply? Not by working more, by building smarter. You're not in survival mode. you're in optimization mode. And that is a completely different game. Level 5. $5,400 per month, $5,400 a month, $64,800 a year. Passive. Let that settle for a moment. Your lifestyle hasn't exploded. You didn't buy a new car. You didn't move into a penthouse. People who knew you a year ago wouldn't notice anything dramatically different from the outside. But on the inside, everything is different. You wake up on Monday morning and you think about your week. Not what you have to do, but what you want to do, where you'll put your energy, what problems are worth your time. You've started to understand something that sounds simple, but takes most people years to feel in their bones. Time is more valuable than money, not because money isn't important. It is. But because you now have enough money to cover your life, and the thing that's actually scarce, the thing you can never get back, is time. So you start protecting it. You stop attending meetings that don't need you. You stop answering every message immediately. You hire someone to help with the work that used to take your evenings. A virtual assistant, maybe, or a freelancer who handles the parts of your business that aren't your strength. You become selective. At this level, something else happens too. Your relationship with your job, if you still have one, becomes very different. You're not showing up to collect a paycheck anymore. You're showing up because you choose to. And that means you can also be more honest, more direct. You advocate for yourself in ways you wouldn't have dared before, because you're not afraid of losing the job. You have a floor. Your passive income also starts to compound in ways that feel almost unfair. That PDF you created 3 years ago, it still sells. That video you posted 18 months ago, still getting views. Those dividend stocks you bought when they were boring and unsexy, they've grown, and the dividends have grown with them. You didn't work for any of that. It just kept going. $5,400 a month is control, not freedom, not yet, but control. And control is the first real taste of what's coming. Level 6, $10,500 per month. Independence. This is the number most financial writers point to when they say financial independence, $10,500 a month, $126,000 a year. For most people, in most cities, most countries, most life situations, this covers everything. The basics, the comforts, some savings, some travel, some generosity. You are, by any reasonable definition, free. Not rich, not famous, not living on a yacht, but free. Free from needing a boss to approve your time off. Free from checking your bank balance before you buy groceries. Free from the quiet hum of financial anxiety that most people carry so constantly they've stopped noticing it. You quit your job. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you negotiate a part-time arrangement or consulting deal or a completely different kind of work, something you'd almost do for free. Because now, work is a choice. And when work is a choice, you can finally choose work that matters to you. Here's what surprises you at this level. Your spending barely changes. You thought you'd live differently when you crossed this number. New clothes, better restaurants, bigger apartment. And yes, you upgrade a few things. But the dramatic lifestyle inflation you expected, it doesn't come. Because here's what you learn. Once your real needs are met, more things don't buy more happiness. What buys happiness is time, autonomy, meaning, and you have all three now. What changes is how you think. You stop thinking in paychecks. You start thinking in systems. You ask, what do I need to build to make sure this keeps working? What are the risks? What happens if one stream slows down? How do I protect this? You start thinking like an owner, not an employee. And that shift in thinking, that's what unlocks the next level. Level 7, $25,720 per month. Expansion. You're not just financially independent now, you're wealthy. $25,720 a month, over $300,000 a year, coming in while you sleep, while you travel, while you spend an afternoon reading by the window. At this point, something interesting happens. You stop tracking expenses, not because you're careless. You're actually more careful with money than most people who earn far less. But because the math has changed, your income is so far above your spending that the small decisions don't move the needle anymore. You used to debate whether to buy the $6 coffee or make it at home. Now that debate is irrelevant, not because you're reckless, but because your financial decisions are now made at a different scale entirely. You're thinking about assets, about structures, about how to make this sustainable across decades, not just months. You've also built something more important than income. You've built leverage. You have a small team, maybe just 2 or 3 people, who handle the operations, the customer service, the day-to-day running of your systems. You have automations doing work that used to take your evenings. You have investments that are professionally managed. You have legal and financial structures that protect what you've built. You're not a solo hustler anymore. You're an operator. And the beautiful thing about leverage is this. Your time investment stays roughly the same, or even goes down, while the output keeps growing. You work maybe 4 to 5 focused hours a day. High-value decisions, strategic thinking, creative direction. The rest runs itself. At this level, you also become very intentional about one more thing, who you spend time with, not in a cold or transactional way. But you begin to realize that the people around you shape your thinking. And your thinking shapes your decisions. And your decisions shape your life. So you invest in relationships with people who are building things, people who think in decades, people who challenge you. Because at this level, the biggest limiting factor isn't money, it's mindset. Level 8, $51,250 per month. Wealth behavior over $500,000 a year. This is a number that most people can't even hold in their mind without it feeling fictional, but you're living it. And here's the truth that surprises everyone who reaches this level. Your life doesn't look that different from the outside. You don't have a personal chef. You don't have a bodyguard. You probably still drive a sensible car and shop at the same grocery store. What's different is invisible. You think in years now, not months. You're asking different questions, not what should I buy, but what should I own, not how do I make more, but how do I protect what I have and make it last? You've diversified across multiple asset classes, real estate, index funds, private equity maybe, a few businesses you own but don't run, digital assets, royalties. You've also made peace with a truth that took a long time to accept. Money is a tool, not a goal, not a measure of your worth, not a scoreboard, a tool. Like a good knife, it does what you need it to do and then it rests. The goal is life, the life you want to build, the person you want to be, the impact you want to have. And at $51,250 a month, you have the tool in its most powerful form. What you do with it, that's the real question. Some people at this level start giving more, funding causes they believe in, helping people in their family or community, building something with a longer legacy. Some people slow down. They take a year just to travel, to think, to reset. Some people go bigger. They see the leverage they have and they use it to build something that affects thousands of people. There's no single right answer, but for the first time in your life, you get to ask the question. Level 9, $107,500 per month. True freedom, $107,500 every month. Passive. You are, by any definition, free. Not just financially, not just professionally, truly free. Your income is completely detached from your time. You could disappear for a month, literally go somewhere with no internet, and the money would keep coming. Your systems run. Your assets compound. Your team operates. The machine you built over years of quiet, disciplined, consistent work just keeps going. You don't work for a paycheck. You don't work to survive. You work when you work because you believe in something. You operate like an owner. You think about your investments, your people, your vision. You make decisions that affect not just your life, but the lives of everyone connected to what you've built. You think about legacy, not in a grandiose way, in a quiet, serious way. You think about what will still be here in 20 years? What am I building that outlasts me? What values am I passing on to my family, to the people I work with, to the community around me? The questions get bigger. The lifestyle doesn't have to. At this level, a lot of people find themselves drawn back to simpler things. More time with family, long walks, books, deep conversations, creative projects they've been putting off for years. Because when the pressure is gone, the real deep pressure of financial fear, you discover what you actually wanted all along. It was never the money. It was the freedom to choose. And you have it now, completely. Here's what I want you to remember. At every single level, at $104, at $520, at $3,230, at $10,500, at $107,500, it felt small when you were in it. When you had $104 coming in, you looked at $1,000 and thought, that's the real threshold. When you crossed $1,000, you looked at $5,000 and thought, that's when it changes. At $5,000, you looked at $10,000. At $10,000, you looked further. There was never a moment where you arrived and thought, okay, this is it. This is enough. I've made it. Because that moment was never out there. It was always inside. The biggest shift at every level was never the number in your account. It was how you thought. It was what you believed was possible. It was whether you saw yourself as someone who builds or someone who simply works. The money followed the thinking, every time. And it all started with a ridiculous, almost embarrassing little number. $104, sitting in your account on a Tuesday morning while you were asleep. The first $100 wasn't income. It was proof. Proof that money can move without you. Proof that time doesn't have to equal dollars. Proof that something you built with your own hands can keep working long after you've walked away. That proof changes everything, because once you believe it's possible, you start building. And once you start building, the only thing left to decide is how far you're willing to go.